Welcome back to Red and Blue. I'm Caitlin Huey-Burns. Florida Republican Governor Ron DeSantis released his new book today called The Courage to Be Free, Florida's Blueprint for America's Revival. The title seems like a blueprint for a DeSantis campaign. He also kicked off a book tour in North Venice, Florida, and had pointed words.
The messages of the book, the underlying is, Florida shows that it can be done. Florida shows that we're not destined for failure. We don't have to keep miring in these missteps like we see as a country. And we will never, ever surrender to the woke mob here in Florida. This is where woke goes to die.
CBS News political reporter Aaron Navarro joins us now from North Venice, Florida. Hey, Aaron, good to see you. So you're kind of out on the campaign trail, I guess we could call it, because DeSantis has not yet announced any plans for running in 2024, yet he has this big book launch, and you attended the first event. Does this look like a campaign in waiting?
Hi, Caitlin. Thanks for having me. At this event, which had 1,500 people, that definitely was the vibe. There was a lot of energy and support for the governor here in his home state. But as you mentioned, it's kind of a campaign in waiting. Today is the day his book launches, but he's been doing events as of late. He did a bunch of law enforcement events last Monday in Chicago, Staten Island, and Philadelphia. He's been out on the fundraising circuit. He's going to be in Texas and California this weekend. But these next couple of days, he is staying here in his home state to do his book launch, kind of reconnect with voters that maybe haven't seen him since the midterms, or a couple I talked to have seen him just today for the first time. So it definitely feels like a campaign in waiting, him kind of reaching out to his home base first and then expanding to the rest of the nation in the coming weeks.
And Aaron, I know you got your hands on this book early. What is kind of the main pitch that DeSantis is making? What's the focus during these stops?
So the main focus that I got from his book and from his about hour and 10-minute remarks today is that he sees himself as a fighter against the Republican establishment, what he calls the federal establishment, against what he calls the corporate media. He says that this was especially prevalent during his COVID response, when he kind of bucked some of the complaints he was getting from both sides of the aisle and decided to keep Florida a bit more open in the summer of the pandemic. Now, he did close the state down through April, but has since kept it open. That's something he touts. He talked a bit about vaccine rhetoric. Specifically, he feels that the public was misled on the efficacy of the vaccines, and it really seemed to resonate with this crowd. And whenever I talk to voters after the event, they seem to bring up COVID on their own and how they feel that DeSantis really planted a flag for himself in terms of how he handled the pandemic in the state and what they like about him keeping the state open.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see if he kind of uses that as the main argument, especially to contrast with other parts of the country. But, you know, I'm really curious because I think everybody is watching DeSantis because of his relationship to Trump and the way in which, you know, everybody's kind of watching to see whether, in fact, they do go toe-to-toe. Did he make any mention of the former president? Has his team been talking about him at all? Or is he kind of, you know, the big person in the room that's not mentioned?
During his remarks today, he did not bring up Trump's name explicitly, a notable amount. But I would say, in reading his book last night, there are a lot of mentions of former President Trump, whether that be how DeSantis feels Trump rose to power because establishment Republicans in the House were ignoring the will of voters, as DeSantis puts it, or when DeSantis is talking about storm response and asks that he had and conversations he had with the former president in the Oval Office where Trump and him really seemed to get along. And it was kind of hard to find any digs, any criticisms towards Trump, any explicit ones, actually. But it really wasn't present in DeSantis' speech today. And talking to voters after, and these are pretty diehard DeSantis supporters, I asked, how do you feel about him potentially jumping into a primary with former President Trump? And all of them, I spoke to about 4 of them, said that they would back DeSantis over Trump. They believe that Trump has some electability problems, that DeSantis represents the change they need. And that's showing DeSantis is really trying to create his own path to this nomination without even referencing or acknowledging some of Trump's attacks.
Yeah, we'll certainly be watching where he goes next, especially with this book tour that you and I both know nobody launches a book tour by accident, especially if they're thinking about running for president. Right. Aaron, great to see you on the road in Florida. We appreciate your reporting. And to look at all things 2024, let's turn to CBS News Chief Washington correspondent Major Garrett with us here on set. So, Major, I was thinking after talking to Aaron that you have all these other candidates kind of testing the waters, going to Iowa, New Hampshire, some of these early states to kind of see if they get reaction. Yep. Ron DeSantis seems like in a totally different camp. I mean, getting 1,500 people for a book launch in your home state that you can say, look, I won this place.
Right. When you're going to run for president of the United States, you write a book to explain to people why you're going to run for the presidency of the United States. And if you can, you have a crowd. You don't have a rally.
Right.
DeSantis can pull together a rally and sell a book. It's already #1 on Amazon in 4 different categories. There's not another political book in the top 20. His is the only political book in the top 20 on Amazon right now.
Wow.
It's a good day.
Yeah.
Big rally, big Amazon sales. And DeSantis and those close to him say the same thing over and over about the campaign to come. We don't need to do anything. We are the brand, we are the Trump alternative, and everyone knows it. And the donors know that, and the donors that the DeSantis campaign is courting, right up alongside former President Trump this weekend in West Palm Beach. That was no accident. It's meant to send a sort of a forearm shiver to the former president. I'm the new thing. And as DeSantis continues down this course, he continues to get incoming from the former president. And they don't respond. Why? Because every attack makes Trump, from their view, weaker and him stronger. Why? Because the Republicans don't like Republicans to attack one another, especially successful Republicans. And DeSantis is viewed by those in Florida and many across the country in the conservative movement as successful. And if Trump is attacking him, he can only be attacking him for one reason. Not on policy, but on personality. They don't like it.
Yeah, and that success story was kind of rare for Republicans this midterm election cycle. I mean, you've covered the former president for a long time. How is he responding here? How do you think he's thinking about DeSantis? I mean, the longer that he stays out, seems like those attacks will keep coming.
So the president is looking at the debate schedule and wants to participate, wants to sort of shellac any of the Republicans not named DeSantis, prove that he's still the front runner and that he's the odds-on favorite. The only person who can really contest that nationwide right now, again, without really flexing any muscles, is DeSantis. I would say DeSantis could even skip the first Republican debate because everyone would say, well, where's DeSantis? Is he going to get in? And that would deprive Trump of this idea that he's still the leader of the Republican Party. Trump couldn't, I guess Trump in theory could skip the first debate, but then it really wouldn't be one. Because if he's not there and DeSantis isn't there, then it's really not a contest. My point about all this is Trump showing up sort of makes it a contest. If DeSantis and Trump, then everyone knows the game is on.
I mean, we have covered these candidates before, though, who...
The energy is on the DeSantis question, not the former president.
I mean, we've covered some of these candidates before who are, seen as kind of the next big thing. I mean, what is the liability here for DeSantis?
The liability, of course, is to be beautiful and full of rippling, sensational potential on paper. And then go out there and everyone's like, huh? What?
Right.
Is that it? Is that it?
Right.
And he's great in Florida. People in Florida love him. And that's kind of a buffer zone for him. It's kind of an unreal place. It's a real place, but it's unreal in terms of what do you have to do to win the Iowa caucuses? What do you have to do to win New Hampshire and South Carolina? There, your state reputation is kind of interesting, but not enough. You've got to win those people over retail, person by person, event by event. That's a different kind of politics for DeSantis. He's still untested there. And if he doesn't win those rooms, then he'll have a problem.
Yeah. Big media markets in Florida are no match for some of those living rooms in Iowa, that's for sure.
Those voters can be skeptical and harsh and unforgiving. And if you're not ready for it, it can set you back.
Yeah, well, that is something we'll keep an eye on, especially as he makes those moves to those early states. Major Garrett, thank you so much.
Sure.
As always, we appreciate it.